Alright, so I promise you guys some better build videos once we start having some more interesting content. And, you know, you can look up 100 videos on how to gas weld and that. But one thing you haven't seen a whole lot of videos on is casting the lead counterweights on stuff. So follow along today and see how we did our lead counterweights for our elevators. Aviation is in my blood and soul. I've flown radio-controlled aircraft, ultralight powered parachutes. I've scratch built a Minimax Eros Light Sport, flown numerous light planes, and am now flying for fun in my RV4. I have a passion for anything that flies, and I live by the words work hard, play harder. So follow along as I do both. Alright guys, well, we're going to be doing some cool stuff today, something different. And we're going to be working on making the counterweights for the elevator system, which we're going to do, way I've read several of the guys doing it, is we made a channel out of some scrap 40 thou that I had laying around, made some channel, welded it into the tip of the counterbalance on the elevator here, measured it about 5 inches back, which should give us more than enough lead for the weight, and then we can drill out along the back edge, you know, whatever we don't need to get the proper balance. I just clamped a piece of scrap steel to the bottom so that we created a nice chamber for the lead to solidify into. And then, because you could still see some light, some of the guys recommend just putting some caulk, anything that's just going to keep the flow of the molten lead stopped until it solidifies, which should happen very quickly. I haven't worked with molten lead since I was a teenager casting musket balls with my dad, so going to be a little bit of a relearning experience, but I remember it melts very fast and solidifies very fast. So we just put a little bit of a caulk seal just to keep the lead in there. And then we're going to take some lead chunks, put them in this pan over my turkey fryer flame. Going to melt it down. Once it's molten, pour it in here, let it solidify, and then knock all of this off. Grind it down so it's nice and flush and smooth with the elevator. And then we will mount the hinges and get us an approximate weight. We're still going to leave this side a little heavy because we still have to compensate for the weight of the fabric, glue, and the paint and everything on this much bigger surface than the smaller surface. So we still want it to be a bit heavy. We'll do our final balancing later on in the build, but this should get us pretty close. So here we go with some lead. I was lucky enough to have one of our EAA chapter members that I just happened to be talking to, and he's like, oh, I got a bunch left over from my project, so I have no idea how many of these it's going to take, so we'll just start here. I'll be right back with you when it melts down. Alright guys, now our lead is fully melted down. I cheated, helped it along a little bit with my oxy-acetylene torch too. So, time to see how well this works. Wish me luck. See if I can get a little bit more in this back corner here where it goes back into the channel, because that'll really help with the mounting too. Alright, well, they call it experimental aviation for a reason, and we experimented, and even after drilling this much of it out, it's still way too heavy. So we're going to go ahead and, I don't remember where it was, I read somebody saying to put that 5 inches back. I'm assuming that might have been for the Bearhawk, the 4-place, because the counterbalance is a lot narrower, it tapers out. So this would be a lot smaller and you'd have a bigger tail to begin with. So maybe that's why the 5 inch came from. But even after drilling all this out, it's still way too heavy. So we're gonna go ahead and break out the torches. We're gonna melt this, try and get this out of here. I'm gonna cut the channel out, move it further up towards the end, because otherwise all we're doing, even if I drill out enough to get it to balance, we're still gonna have way more weight here than what we need overall. The closer we can get it to the tip, the more it's gonna counterbalance the other side. Less weight overall to give us the same performance. Less weight's better. All right, here we go. Take 2 on trying to make our lead balance counterweights for the elevators. As you can see, I cut out the cross beam, the channel here, moved it up quite a bit further. So the volume for pouring the lead into is a lot smaller. So hopefully this will be about the right amount. I probably could do a whole bunch of math and figure out a lot closer, but that takes a whole lot of time, and I think this is going to work out real good. You know, this should give us a little bit more weight than what we need still, and, you know, give us room to drill out to balance it once we have the fabric and paint figured out. So stay tuned and wish us luck this time. Round 2. All right, guys, so as you can see, the modification worked. We cut it out, we moved it up to about 3.5 inches instead of the 5 inches. Gave us a much smaller area. We still had to drill out a couple of holes, but we're still right about where we want to be, slightly nose heavy, because we still have to add one more bracket for the trim tab, and then obviously it'll be the glue, the fabric, the paint. So we'll do a final balance as we get closer, but it's pretty freaking close. Doesn't take much effort to move it back and forth. So we're in a pretty good balance, slightly nose heavy to be counterbalanced with the fabric. So made a lot of progress today, and something different, melting down lead and forming it and then drilling it for balance weight. Hope you guys enjoyed. Alright, so you guys all know how these videos work. Give it a like if you did, and click that subscribe button and follow along as I continue to work hard and play harder.